Well, hey there, you're on the internet, my finger still has to grow back, and welcome to the Triple N Network, where all you newbie nib nerds can find all the news you'll need. Let's look at an ink today, shall we? Now, today's ink is by a brand called K.W.Z of Poland, and the wonderful, original, mysterious benefactor had the entire line of K.W.Z ink sent to me. And then a little while later, he also sent me another care package with several other inks in it. And he sent me his sample of raspberry, which is today's ink, because he hated it. So of course I was like, alright, I gotta try this. Especially because I knew I would hate it, because I have a personal hatred for the color of pink. Because I'm what is referred to as a girl, people constantly gave me pink things, despite the fact that it is an incredibly unflattering color on me. And the hatred grew. So, yes, raspberry, pink, K.W.Z. The wonderful, mysterious benefactor also did not like it, but it must be tested. Now, interestingly enough, I don't know if this is going to come through, but this color doesn't really remind me of raspberries so much as like the inside of a grapefruit, which is funny because I have an ink that's called grapefruit. But, moving on. Let's check out the two pens, which are these. This is a Nemosine, I have no idea. It's a Singularity, and it is a 0.6 stub, and as you might be able to tell, you can't see through those tines. They're very tightly pressed together, and it's partly why I keep this pen around. It's quite dry writing, and it's a fairly small stub. So that's sort of my going easy on it pen. And this is a MonteVerde Impressa. And the thing is, I have two MonteVerde Impressas. This is the one that hasn't gone through the washer and dryer 3 separate times. And I didn't realize that this one, as you can see, the tine's also very, very tight. It's also quite dry. So usually I like to use one sort of broader, wetter pen and one smaller, drier pen, but yeah, I should have thought that through more. Anyways, let's check out the comparables, see if I've got anything even remotely close to this. And the truth is, I found about 24 samples that were in the rough ballpark. So yeah, narrowed it down. Now, first one I have is by Private Reserve, and it's Fiesta Red. And yes, this has more red in it. This is more pink. But I thought sort of the, like, through here, kind of reminded me of through here. So, yep. Here's Diatramentis Scented Orchids. Quite similar. I'd say it's maybe a little lighter in the thinner areas through here. Here's another K.W.Z ink. This is Cherry, which I'd say is maybe a little more red than this, which is a little more pink. And lastly is Stipula Florentine Red. Except, even though it says, my label on my sample says Florentine, I've always thought of it as Fiorentina, but that's just me. Again, you can see this has a little, it's almost like a pastel red more than a pink. This has a little touch more purple in it. But yeah, that's what I mean by like 24 inks that were peripherally similar. There was nothing straight on, but there were several things that were kind of close. So, yep, there's that. Alrighty, let's check out the chromatography. Now here's the chromatography as it is meant to be done. And I don't know how to describe this color except to say this is the color of a grapefruit peel, which is why I think the end color of the ink looking like the flesh is kind of amusing. And you can see where that initial drop was put, and you can see that some of this ink, some of this color, doesn't want to let go. All these big streaks. But then there are some bare patches. And then there is this, and yes, it is that violent a shade of magenta-ish. It's actually that color. Now here's where I let it dry, which is not how you're supposed to do it. But you might be able to tell. It's not necessarily that the dot is darker. It's just that there's sort of more stuff all through here. And rather than a very distinct separation of this bright pink up at the top, it's sort of a darker, almost purpley magenta up here. So yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting. Now I wanted to see what this ink could sort of stand up against. And so here's where I did some water. And you can see that all, just like in the chromatography, that bright pink washed off and this sort of grapefruit peel color remained underneath. And you can see the shading from the pattern down below kind of remained. 1/3 bleach solution. I know this color won't come through, but it is a it's almost like a yellowish. So I started to break it up, but then I also had to stop it up because it was doing things to the paper. Ammonia pen flush, as you might be able to tell, more than these two, really got things moving, but it got everything moving all at once, and when I stopped it up, it left a little bit of everything behind. This is one of the most profound reactions to hydrogen peroxide I've ever seen on a test. This really looks kind of something. I don't have words for that. If you have words for it, leave it in the comment down below, because I don't know how to describe that. Now, paper test, top down in density, Clairefontaine 90 grams per square meter. I'm going to bring this in close so you can get a look. Now, that 0.6 stub, which is generally fairly dry writing, and you can probably tell because you see how there's really not much smear in that smear. Yeah, it took 10 seconds to dry. The 1.1 stub, which is also kind of dry, also not a huge smear for such a large stub. But you can see, I'm sure, the very wide breadth of shading you get in the writing. So if you like that, that's awesome. Yeah, and here I mentioned something that I don't always remember to mention when I review a K.W.Z ink. To date, I think I've tested maybe about 20 inks, maybe a little bit more, and every single one has a smell. If you were ever a kid, at least in the United States, I don't know how popular this stuff is outside, but there was this oil-based clay called Sculpey that kids could play with, whether it was art class or whatever, and since it was oil-based, it wouldn't dry out and evaporate, so you could sort of keep playing with it. It had a smell that stuck to your hands, and sometimes the color of the clay would stick to your hands too, and it had this weird chemical smell. K.W.Z smells like Sculpey. All the inks have that smell. The day I find one that doesn't, you will be the first to know. But yeah, anyways, the ink is generally quite well behaved. There's no bleed, no feather, no spread. I don't see any echo. I mean, maybe in the scrubby, but I almost feel like that's cheating. I don't know if I'd call this sheen. It's, so like right here, in the darkest bit right through there, it almost gets shiny. Do you see that? Please tell me that's coming out. But yeah, I don't know. It looks like maybe it wants to, but yeah, anyways. Water test. So this is the 0.6 stub right here. It's all gone. The 1.1, there's a little hint of something, and pretty much the 1.1 is the only one that left anything behind, really. And again, it's sort of that grapefruit peel kind of color. Next up is Fabriano Eco Qua. It's an 85 gram per square meter paper. It's my favorite currently. This stuff is a pleasure to use. Now, the 0.6 Singularity, which is a bit dry writing, took 10 seconds to dry, and you can probably tell that's a bit dry. Just that smear is tiny. And the 1.1 took 18, but yeah, comparatively that smear is tiny. Now, I hope this will show up. Oh, there we go, yeah. So there is a sort of gold-colored sheen that rests around the wettest parts and a bit of a halo. And the thing is, it shows up in a few places in the writing, but it is so tiny that I know it's going to just not show up on camera, or if it is, it's going to take me 20 minutes, and let's not waste that much film. Digital memory, whatever. Good shading. Very nice shading. You do get a little bit of a halo effect around the wettest parts. And where if you lay it on really thick, that halo turns into a little bit of sheen. But yeah, there's no bleed, no feather, no spread, no echo. All good in that regard. And again, really not much. Water resistance, what is there is patchy. It's hard to read, and it's not the same color, but I feel like thematically it's a similar color. It's grapefruity, which is funny because they do have a grapefruit ink. But anyways, this is Rhodia, 80 grams per square meter. Yeah, that 0.6 stub took 11 seconds to dry, which is a bit longer than what we've seen so far, I believe. Yeah, but you can also see that smear is a bit longer, and that's because I've had to prime the feeds at this point. This ink really is just, it's a 5. It's a 5 out of 10 wetness. It's just fine. So when I put it in a dry writing pen, it's not going to be perfect. It's not perfect. Which is why you might be able to tell this scrubby, despite it being the smaller nib, is darker than this one. Because I had not primed the feed on the 1.1, which took 17 seconds to dry, until down here. So yeah, don't suggest putting this ink in a pen that is definitely dry. Just a heads up. But you do get some very nice shading on here. It is quite nice. You do get a mild halo effect. Like if you look at there's sort of a dark outline in those down strokes next to the 17. You get a nice breadth of shading. So if you like shading, that's very nice. Yeah, again, no bleed, no feather, no spread, no echo, and also no sheen on here. The sheen is gone. It looks like it wants to. If we look at the scrubby, it almost looks like it wants to start getting shiny, if not sheeny. And yeah, the water test, it's pretty bad. Yeah, that would really be not the easiest task in the world to try and recover. Yeah, next up is Tomoe River paper, which is known for drawing out shading and sheen and dry times and echo. And the thing is, when you lay it on thick, it can get very dark, especially in those spots where you would get a bit of a halo effect, like you see here in the scrubby. And so you might get a tiny bit of echo. Now this was me laying it on very, very heavy because I wanted to see if I could get some of the sheen on camera, because I know I would have been struggling to get it on camera by now. And we can see it in the bottom scrubby in that halo a little bit. Hopefully, if my camera will calm down. See that? There's a little bit of shine. And, I mean, I know a lot of ladies who love that pink and gold thing. Maybe you are one of those ladies or a not lady who likes this. That's awesome. Check it out. But, yeah, Tomoe River being Tomoe River, it does draw out dry times. So, even in that dry writing little stub, it took 14 seconds, and in that dry writing 1.1, it still took 23. So, not the fastest drying ink, especially not on this paper, but, I mean, we've seen a heck of a lot worse, and you do get some very nice shading effect in the writing. Could be a heck of a lot worse. But yeah, no bleed, no feather, no spread. Yeah, you do get a little bit of echo, especially in the places where you put down enough to get a bit of a halo, but honestly, it's already sort of like, it's a medium pink. It's not super dark, so it could be a heck of a lot worse. Now this paper loves to let ink slide away when you add more water, and honestly I was expecting more to slide away considering how little we've seen remain on the other papers. But here, yeah, no, there is a little something. It is not easy to read. It is very light, but honestly, I was expecting there to just be like a blank sheet. So the fact that anything is there surprised me. Now, for the next 3 tests, I only use the 0.6 stub, except to write the name. And here's the world's worst 20-pound copier paper. This stuff is just awful. And as you might be able to tell, even before I bring it in, there is no shading left. And there's a good deal of spread. So if we look at the line width here versus here, like like once the ink gets on the paper, it sort of spreads out. Sorry for my sound effects, I'm sure they're annoying, but I'm a sound effecty person. Anyways, took 1 second to dry. There is a very woolly texture, and there is like a featheriness. It is not good. So there's no shading, there's spread, there's woolliness, there's feathering. There's even a couple of spots of bleed. Now honestly, I feel like that says more about this paper, because I really do mean this is the worst paper I have ever encountered, and I am a paper person. This is awful. This is singularly awful. This is the paper that I include to show you just how bad it can get. And so the fact that I keep using this, but I hate Moleskine, should probably say a few things. Now, this is a very vibrant pink. It's not a pink like a crazy Barbie pink, if you know what I'm saying, but it is a pink, and it's a nice pink, and it's an intense pink without like an, eye pain pink. I'm saying pink a lot. But yeah, I mean, the fact that we're having all these problems, and it is a slightly dry writing ink, and it's in a dry writing pen, chances are you have something a step up from this. But yeah, that's pretty bad. Now, more absorbent papers tend to draw the ink in, make it harder to wash out. That's kind of what we see here, because we do see a lot more color remaining. If we look in close, we can see that step at the center. like at the bottom of the T, bottom of the E. Oh, I feel like I'm wearing a bad pair of glasses, it's so blurry. But that sort of looks more like the orange we saw at the base. And you can see the pink is kind of washing off, but it is exploding. It is just blurring out like a camera going out of focus. And that is not easy to read, but there is something there. So I don't know if your life depended on it, if you were motivated enough, maybe you could recover that. Because there is something, at least. Now this is Mead Notebook Paper. It's very cheap. It's thinner than 20-pound copier paper. This is the kind of stuff you'd find in like a 5-star notebook rather than like a composition notebook. Lately this stuff has been feathering like crazy. And here it is again. Like if we look at Mead, or shading, or paper, or any of that, yeah, we got some feathers. We got some pretty intense feathers. That's something this paper has been doing lately. So I'm sure it's partly the ink, but it's also partly the paper. And as you can tell, there really isn't any shading left. It took 2 seconds to dry. The color is still I don't know, it's bold, if not bright. You know, it's still got some oomph to it, without it like a knocking the wind out from you kind of oomph. But yeah, it's, there's not as much spread. Like if you look at the line width, it doesn't get as broad, so that's rather nice. And then, if we look at the back, there is some show through. But you see how light everything is? You know, there's no like particularly dark spots coming through. That's because there is no bleed. You can see that there's something written on the other side, but it is nowhere near close to coming out the back. So that's rather nice. However, this paper does tend to freak out when you add water. And it kind of did. The thing is, I would have expected it to freak out more, considering the 20-pound, which looks like it's forcibly taking my eyes out of focus. But here, some of it washed away. I'd say the feathering increased. But if you absolutely had to recover that, I think you could. Now, lastly is Moleskine notebook paper, which I hate because it is terrible, and yet they make you pay a lot of money for it. And yeah, we have no shading. We have an intense wooliness. We have feathering. We have long dry times almost as long as premium paper, despite the fact that it's obviously absorbent, because you can see the pulp. Ugh. I mean, it's gross looking. It's bad. There is full-on bleed. There are several spots of full-on bleed, despite the fact that this is a dry writing ink. This is a dry writing small stub. I hate this paper. And here, I don't even know how to describe that. I invite you to describe what that is down below. It is a bad water test. I mean, look, even the stuff at the center is like kind of letting go and feathering, but some of the pink doesn't want, oh, it's a mess. I hate ending on Moleskine because it always makes me so grumpy. But yeah. Anyways, there you go for your consideration. K.W.Z Raspberry. I don't like it because I don't like pink, but I mean, honestly, didn't do half bad. It is a little dry writing. On super premium papers, you know, papers that can really handle it, like Tomoe River or Fabriano, you get this nice little contrast between pink and gold. That's your thing. Check it out. Put it in a dry writing pen. Not so great on the world's cheapest copier paper. Did pretty alright on Mead if you put it in a small dry writing stub. So, yeah. There you go, for your consideration from the Triple N Network. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe to the channel. And thanks for watching. Bye.